In my very first playthrough of ASKA, I made a whole lot of mistakes, but I learned a lot of cool things that would have helped me along the way when I first started playing. So let's talk about 8 mistakes everybody makes in ASKA. Also, shout out ASKA for paying the King's tax and sponsoring this video. If you want to learn more about the Hearth and Heat content update, I'll leave a link in the description and a pinned comment below. Alright, the first mistake we're going to talk about is picking the wrong character. Now, before you even get into the game, click on change character right here, and you'll see you have 2 different options between a character of ASKA and Ragnar. Now, if you just want to play a guy or a girl, you can pick them. The base stats aren't going to completely change the game, but you should know that Ragnar is a lot more vitality and strength focused, while ASKA is a lot more speed and dexterous focused. So if you're more of a stats person and you want to focus on that, definitely think about that before you choose your character. Another example is Ragnar is a lot more cold resistant than ASKA, but Ragnar is also a lot slower than ASKA in terms of movement speed. Personally, for my first run, I figured I was going to be a lot more melee focused and I wanted to be resistant to cold, so I chose playing Ragnar over ASKA. But maybe next run I might end up choosing ASKA and doing like a dexterous build. Now, mistake number 2 is not choosing the proper base location. So when you start the game, you basically get washed ashore and you're told to build a little base camp. But what they don't really tell you is that there are a couple things that you will want to be around that will help you a lot in the future. Specifically the water, which you'll already be by, but you also want to be near a mine. So if we look at our little village right here, we are right next to the water, so we can build our fisherman's house, our boat builders, our harbors. But then we're also close enough to the mine so that we can build a mine house and extract iron from it. Iron is going to be very important later on, so I definitely recommend building near a mine if possible. Now, you could build like a little outpost and have your people bring the iron back to the base, but especially if it's your first time around, I would say you'd probably want to have everything around you as much as possible. And in that case, I would say try being near the water and being near a mine. Don't be too close to like the bear or the wolves, because these guys will spawn and having your villagers running around them can be kind of a pain. Also, keep in mind, as you can see with this village, you will be building pretty wide, so you will want to have some extra space, maybe some flat land that you can work with. I think I just got really lucky with this one area and this seed, but for your run, you may have to look around the map a little more and see if you can find something. And for those that may or may not want it, here's the seed that we're using for this map specifically. Now, mistake number 3 is not hiring villagers fast enough. In this game, you are going to need a lot of villagers because villagers are basically the lifeblood of your village. They're going to be making your food, gathering your resources, they're going to be defending your village, they're going to be making your equipment. They pretty much do everything that you can do, so you're going to need to get some as soon as possible. Now, before you can even summon your villager, you are going to need a couple of things. Firstly, you're going to need an Eye of Odin, which you can find in your settlement, and then Eye of Odin right here. Fill it with the Odin blood to attract a new villager, which you can find across the lands. And now when you're trying to find Jotun blood, you are looking for these glowing blue stones. So these Jotun blood shards. And all you have to do is get a pickaxe, mine them. And each villager takes, I believe, 5 Jotun stones to summon. So you might have to go around and get a couple of these before you have enough to summon a villager. Once you have your 5 Jotun blood, go over to your Eye of Odin and open storage, and you should have some slots here where you can slot in your Jotun blood. Simply right click, and you'll have a couple villager options to choose from. So it looks like we got Gertrude and Sigurd. Now, if I'm looking at these perks, Chill Sensitive is not that great. Daylight Devotion isn't too bad. When you're hiring villagers, you're definitely gonna have to keep an eye on their perks. So these first 2 perks you're going to be able to see, but these last 3 perks you won't be able to see until after the fact that you hired him. So once we hire Sigurd, it's gonna take about 8 minutes to summon him. And then after 8 minutes, he will be ready. All right, now that we have Sigurd right here, you can see he has 3 more traits. So he has Snow Strider, so he's more efficient in snowy weather. Wind Rider, so he's honing his skills to endure fiercest winds. And he's also Storm Forged. So honestly, his skills, I think all of his skills are positive. This is a pretty good spread, I would say. Like I said, around late game, I have about 37, almost 40 people. As you're playing the game, you should just keep hiring people more and more because you're gonna need them for later. And trust me when I say you're gonna need them for later. Now, tip number 4 is not utilizing villagers optimally. One thing I think really trips people up in terms of villager optimization is villager schedules. Torsten, come over here real quick. If we look at Torsten over here, we can see he has a villager schedule, so we can actually assign when he works, sleeps, and has leisure time. Now, these shifts are important because if you have everybody working in the day all the time, when it becomes nighttime, all of your production is just going to go down to 0. So it's nice to have some people working at night so you can have some people building, crafting, and making some food, while everybody is just sleeping soundly. Now, my biggest recommendation, at least in terms of a preset, would be having a night shift, a morning, and maybe even a vacation one if somebody's having like a really bad day or a really bad week. My day and night shift presets ended up working pretty well. So if you want to use these as an example or remake these, I have them basically have leisure time for 4 hours. I have them sleep for a total of 8 hours. And then for the rest of the day, that's what, 12 hours, they're just completely working. Now this is gonna make them, I think, have like a minus to their schedule balance, but because they have good leisure and sleep hours, it doesn't really bother them. As you can see, they're at 99 out of 100. Most of our people here are 100, 91, 84. Like a lot of these people are already like really high up here. No one's too down low. I don't know why Canute is so low. Here, we can pull him up and see why. Canute, oh, because it's raining. So since Canute is already working in the day, what I might do is just have him be a morning guy instead. Another thing I would say that's important in terms of optimizing villagers, especially with workers and gatherers, is being generous with resource markers. Now, if you look on the map here, we have a lot of these flags around. Some of these I haven't updated since the update where they made it so all of them work with one flag, because they used to be separate. But realistically, you only need one flag in specific areas, and anything in these ranges will be able to be gathered from. So for example, we have a resource marker right here. Anybody that has to gather wood, stone, anybody who forages, hunts, any of the jobs that are assigned to these settings will be able to gather anything that they need in this specific area. Now, if we look over here, for example, this area is specifically foraging, so nobody's going to be chopping trees down in this area or mining. But they might do that in this area here, for example, where anything goes. Another tip I would say in regards to being generous with these resource markers are try and avoid some of these animal locations like the bear den or the wolf den, because they will mess with your villagers. Since I'm in the end game and I have the bear on farm, I basically go over there and clear him every time he spawns. So that's why I'm able to kind of deal with this wood marker here. But in early game, I probably wouldn't have been able to do this. The final tip I would give in terms of villager optimization are building roads. If you go to terraforming down here, you have two different types of roads, the path maker and the road planner. And I would recommend building these in your village if possible, because as you can see, the villagers are using the roads. And if you run on these roads, you actually use a lot less stamina. So there is a functionality to it. Now, if you look at my stamina right above my health bar there, you can see I'm at 86, 84, 83, 79. 75. You see every time I like take a little step off the road, it goes down a lot faster. So now that I'm off the road completely, look how fast my stamina goes down. So roads are actually massive. So if you can get roads will help you out a lot, especially in your village, or if you have outposts. In between outposts, definitely build some roads if you do. All right, bonus tip. Don't forget to pay that king's tax of 1 like or 1 sub, y'all. Also, we do a lot of live multiplayer games on the channel, so if you'd like to be a part of some multiplayer shenanigans, consider becoming a member. Sorry, I had to throw that in there. Let's move on to mistake number 5, and that is warehouses. It's all about warehouses. Warehouses are basically going to be what hold all of your resources, but you do have a little bit of customization over them. So if you go into building and you go down to storage here, this is where you build like your little warehouse, but you can also add different pieces onto the warehouse. For example, we have raw food silo, cooked food silo, fish racks, Jotun blood storage, firewood storage, clothing storage. All the types of items that you're going to store are going to go into the warehouse, but you're going to have to build these pieces on top of the warehouses here. Now, I do highly recommend having your warehouses be in the center of the village and trying to have enough room for at least like 3 or 4 of them in the future. Hindsight's always 20/20, but next time I would do this, I would definitely put all of my warehouses, or at least plan for warehouses, around the center of the village. Since I kind of like laid these down haphazardly, we have like a clothing storage, small crafting storage, meat hunk stone. I would definitely organize these a lot more and have maybe like wood supplies on one. Maybe I'd have food and clothing, villager supplies on another, advanced supplies on another warehouse. Also, it really depends on the item type as well. But you will need duplicates. For example, we do have, I think, 2 raw food silos right here. I would say expect to have some duplicates, maybe 2 to 3 of each item. It will take a while for them to get filled up, so you can just start out with 1. But keep it in mind that in the future, you will need multiple of these pieces onto your warehouse. Mistake number 6 is going to be about fiber and food problems. Once you've officially get settled into your village, I feel like there are two main problems you're going to run into. And that is either you're going to run out of fiber really quick, or you're going to run out of food for your villagers really quick. So we're going to go over how you can solve both of these problems. And you can basically kill both birds with one stone with farming here. So essentially, once you get a farm shed, you can build these farm plots and plant your own crops. And these crops will be dependent on which season you're in. But whatever season you are in, you will be able to grow different types of things, including onions, pine cones, reeds, beetroots, berries, cabbage, carrots, flax, and garlic. So there are a lot of things you can grow. The main things you're going to want to grow at the start, I would recommend, would be getting some garlic, getting some fiber, and then for off season, maybe the colder times, getting some beetroot, just so that you have some extra food or vegetables in, so you can make some other meals or any materials that you may need with the fiber. I definitely have gone a little overboard with the fiber, so you don't need as much fiber as I do. I believe one improved farm can have up to 4 farming plots, which is why we're maxed out right here. But you don't need all of these to be flax. I think you could probably survive with just one of these being flax. If you want some extra, you could probably do 2. But definitely have some of these growing some garlic, growing some onions, getting some reeds in, because you're gonna need a lot of those for cooking food recipes, which you'll need a cookhouse for. And we do have a cookhouse right here. Now we only have 2 farmers when we could have up to 4 farmers, but I think the 2 farmers work fine. If you want to be a little bit more optimal, maybe you get 3 farmers, but I definitely don't think you need all 4 farmers to run all 4. 2 has worked fine for me, to be honest, with all these fields. So I think you could probably do just fine with 2. Now, in terms of making food and getting food recipes, you won't have all of the food recipes on your own at the start. You're going to have to find them yourself. And I don't think even I have all of the food recipes, but I can give one as an example. For example, if we wanted to make one called, I believe, mushroom stew here. I don't think I have this one. We would throw in 3 mushrooms. We would put 1 raw food in, which would be, I guess, the raw fish meat. And then we would just fill it up with water up to, I think, 2 liters. Looks like we have some fish stew. There we are. We got fish stew tier 3 food right there. It's as simple as that, though. Once you have the recipe, you can manage your task inside the building here. You can add task, and then you can find fish stew and automate it. And now your villagers will make it on their own. And then you don't have to worry about it. Simple as that. I'll have a link to the ASKA wiki for more of the recipes if you want that in the description below. Now, tip 7 is about being unprepared for winter. As you can see, it is spring. It's almost going to be summer, actually. But eventually, once winter hits, it is going to get cold really quick, which means you're going to need clothing, and you're going to need a lot of fire for your villagers. In terms of clothing, I would recommend just going to a workshop here and getting some clothing made. So I believe if we look up in our tasks here, I have tier 2 clothing. Tier 1 will work just fine. Having a basic set of clothing on your villagers is absolutely necessary. But another thing that will also help them out is having campfires around the village. So as you can see, I have around here, I have a campfire by our warehouse. I have a campfire going by the workshop. I have a campfire by the bloomery. I just basically spread out these campfires so that when it is winter, if anybody gets super cold, then kind of just run up to the campfire and then get warm and then go back to whatever they're doing. Now, winter will take a while, so like I said, you do have a little bit of time to get everybody ready, but you will definitely need to get some clothing, and you will also need to get some campfires around your village, just to keep everybody happy and not want to leave the village. All right, the final mistake number 8 is underestimating winter invasions. Now, I don't believe it's going to happen your first winter, but I believe your second winter, you are going to be notified that there is going to be an invasion starting in, I believe, 24 days. As you can see on the right of my screen, I have an invasion already started. In 20 days, we are going to be invaded. And I have this little portal on the map here. When this invasion has been announced, one of these portals will pop up on your map, the winter invasion portal. And this is going to be where the Draugr and all of the enemies come out to attack you. So once winter hits, they will all flood out of this portal and attack the base. So before that happens, we need to be especially prepared. Now, the main ways to prepare for this are getting some of your villagers ready and equipped for battle. Similar to making them some armor, you should also make them some weapons, which can also be done in the workshop. But one thing that will drastically help them level up a lot faster is building either an archery range or a barracks, preferably both. These buildings are essentially what are going to level up your villagers fighting skills. So archery will build up your ranged, melee will be built up in the barracks. Let me see if I have a villager as an example that I can show off. Yeah, Torbjorn and Ragna. These are two of my best melee fighters. I've essentially had them in the barracks for a really long time. I think Arv is also a barracks person. And I believe I also have some archers around. Ake, Nyal, these two are my big archers. So I have my archers set up in the improved archery range, and then I'll have my melee people set up in the barracks. To train them up in here, you're basically gonna set them as a task and give them a little patrol route. So I have some patrol markers that they'll kind of just patrol around in terms of the village to keep it safe. But then for most of the day, which is I believe, yeah, 12 hours, they're spending most of their time just shooting at the archery range, which is leveling up their archery skills. You will need to get extra bows and arrows for this because they will waste them. But it's definitely worth it, especially once the invasion hits. You are going to need some help. Another thing that will keep people very happy is having walls around the village. If you build some walls, it'll take a lot more time for the enemies to get through because they're gonna have to break them down. But in addition to that, you can also build some spikes on the walls. See, we have some edge wall spikes. And when they hit the walls, they'll actually take damage. So depending on which way they usually attack us, so for example, since they're attacking us from the southwest right now, they're most likely gonna be hitting the walls on this southwest side. So we do have a couple spiked walls on this side, but we might need to add some more on this right side here, just so that if they do attack this side, they'll take a little bit of damage. Another thing that will be useful for the upcoming battle will be getting a smoker horn. This will be something that you can create later. To make a smoker horn, you're basically gonna need to get a horn from a smoker, a male smoker. So you're gonna have to look around and explore around the map to see if you can find any wild smokers. Any of them that have horns, try and kill them and see if they drop a horn. 1 raw smoker horn, 2 leather scraps, 1 rope. This smoker horn can basically be used to summon warriors into battle. Now you have 2 different calls, one that will prevent them from attacking and one that will send them into attack. So for example, if I think I press left click on the horn, warriors are retreating and avoiding combat for 57 seconds. But if I right click, warriors are advancing and engaging enemies for 58 seconds. So this horn will be very important, especially during invasions, to call up your team and rally them for battle, or if you just want to get them away from battle. One thing that will also really help in terms of fighting these invasions and exploring around will be building a proud chieftain hut, which I believe you can build in housing here. This is going to be your own house. It is a little bit expensive in terms of resources, but if you do unlock this, you unlock the party system, which allows you to take villagers with you. So they'll actually just roam around and follow you. So if you have to do any boss fights or if you have to go anywhere, you can essentially defeat anybody that you need to. Oh snap, day 100, y'all. I guess in addition to getting some tips, you also get to see me witness day 100, which is kind of crazy. I guess the last example I could give in terms of fighting against the winter invasion is if you don't want to risk them coming up to your base and building the walls, you could actually build a little fortification around the portal and then build some towers. So if you go down to defenses here, you could build some hedge towers and have your villagers patrol there. But in terms of ease, I would say if you don't have the chieftain hut where you can have your villagers follow you, I would definitely just build walls around your village and then have the smoker horn. Make sure your villagers have weapons and armor. And honestly, you should probably be fine. Be sure to let me know the biggest mistake you've made in ASKA in the comment section below. Lastly, thank you so much Thunderful Games for paying the king's tax and sponsoring this video. If you want to learn more about the Hearth and Honey content update, be sure to check out the link in the description or the pinned comment below. And if you'd like to see some more ASKA content, we also did a day 1 ASKA stream, which I'll link on the screen right here. But until next time, y'all, thanks for watching and take care.